Nation. We're back.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Fire the Cannon. I'm Rocky.
And I'm Megan. And we are Fire the Cannon.
Nice. All right. Welcome back, Megan.
Good to be back.
We're starting late tonight because you were at the CDC Town Hall, Texas Athletics Town Hall with the athletic director, the best one in the nation, Conte. So that's why we're joining. I was actually at Nadia's wrestling banquet tonight, wrapping up junior year season of the wrestling season. So we had lasagna and it was delicious. And yeah, it was really well. It was good. It was good. So that's where we are. So we didn't want to change nights. We're going to be Wednesdays, but we'll just start a little late tonight, but that's okay. Because how you doing other than that?
Yeah, good. Look, I'm tired. I'll be real honest with you. It has been a long day, but I'm happy I went. I think there's a lot that goes on. Now, for those that don't know, you can actually stream the town halls on Longhorn Network as well. And I have to say, I'm just going to start off saying this. I was pretty proud of our Texas people tonight. There were a few folks that got a little fussy, but it wasn't like in years past where you just got. Yeah, listen. I don't know how CDC keeps his cool and does his job and addresses everybody like so chill, because we see it on Twitter. We see it in person. We see it everywhere. People want to complain about the color of the orange or that the sky is blue or that, there's all kinds of complaints. Now, some are valid. There were some valid concerns that were brought up tonight.
Garage issues.
Yeah, that's definitely caused a stink, but for the most part, I thought that people were pretty level-headed. There were a few comments there. I'm just going to get this out of the way now. One woman suggested or begged the question, why could CDC not affect the weather for football games? Why was it so hot? Could he do something about the heat at the football games? So,
was that a real question?
It was a real person standing up at the microphone asking a real question. Now,
I think people don't really control the weather, despite what media. Yeah. Oh my God.
I think what she meant to ask was, are there things that can be put in place that would help fans deal with the weather? But that was not the question that came out of her mouth. It was, can you do something about the heat? So that was
all knowing, but he does not control the weather.
That is true. So that question aside, it was pretty level-headed. And look, we'll start off with the big one that I think for baseball fans has been certainly a stink. I'm just going to be very honest. I think the communication was poorly handled by Texas over the parking situation at baseball. CDC addressed that head on. He didn't wait for the question to come up. He said, look, I hear you. I've gotten a lot of calls about it, and he owned it. And this is one thing I really respect about CDC is throughout the night, if there were negatives, he wasn't afraid to take that head on. And he is the athletic director that doesn't pass the buck on. He's the guy that said, look, that falls on me. That's my fault. What he said with the parking at baseball, for those of you that don't know or are just hearing about it, for years, since the East Garage was built right next to the dish, that has been utilized for baseball parking, right? For event parking, for tennis parking, for softball parking to some extent as well. And that has changed this year without much communication about it. Texas is no longer allowing folks to buy the $10 parking in the East Garage on game day. As you can imagine, that caused a pretty big stink with people. And I think what the bigger issue was, to be honest, was just it wasn't communicated well. Season ticket holders had the chance to renew their tickets for baseball. They were given the option to buy a season parking pass for that East Garage, but no conversations were had that you would not be allowed to buy single game parking passes, which a lot of people do, right? So a lot of us, including me,
I always do. Pull up, pay $10, park right by or park over in the softball cemetery area and walk over. But even that has become a disaster on that side too, with so much construction.
Right. So again, I think the bigger issue, I think some of the frustration could have been mitigated a little bit with clearer communication earlier. What they are saying, the party line is that the East Garage was built with the growth of the university in mind. And now that the new grad housing is open, they take priority there, right? They don't want to boot
Oh, okay.
residents out. They don't want to boot residents out of the garage
On
for
game days.
on game day, right? The 30 games at home or whatever it
Okay,
winds
so
up being.
that's why that garage now has to take care of the entire that
Right.
housing for the tennis complex.
Right.
And the
So
by
that
baseball, tennis, that new building. So they
right.
get garage. Okay.
Right. So they get priority. And so that's why if on game day for baseball you pull up and even if the garage looks empty, that is the reason that they are not selling single game passes to park there is because residents could come home, right? The spots are already accounted for, paid for by the grad student housing. So I will admit it is frustrating. Like I said, the communication has been spotty at best. The solution for Texas is the LBJ garage offers $10 parking on baseball game days. And then they are offering shuttles. Now, Texas fans be warned, those shuttles do not look like shuttles. They are, in fact, tiny little burnt orange golf carts that athletics owns. There
But
are quite a
it
few of
is an
them.
easy walk across. Like just like we
Yeah.
park by baseball and go over to the Moody, park over
Yeah.
by the Moody and come over to baseball. It's the same
Right.
difference. Just you
Right.
just need to know that in advance so you have plenty of time to do that.
Right. Now, I think the bigger concern has been, baseball has a little bit older demographic.
Mhm.
So they have certainly been vocal about it, and I can appreciate that. It's a little more difficult if you're mobility challenged, right? And the shuttle pickup locations they don't really stand out. They haven't been super clearly marked. I think they'll get the hang of it as the season goes on, but just be aware again, Texas's solution is what they have offered. There are no new updates to that. It's just that they are painfully aware that this is a pain point for Texas fans. Right now, the solution is the LBJ garage, or look, get there super early, look for parking along the street. You do have that option to take the shuttle to the LBJ garage. But it is something they're aware of and they will be working for solutions in the future. Now,
But you
Sam,
could buy ADA parking at the East Garage, right?
ADA
Right.
only. So if you have mobility issues and you have an ADA tag or plate, then yes, you are allowed to pull up and pay the $10 in the East Garage and utilize those ADA parking spots. So I did want to point out, Sam, this is kind of along these lines. Sam Little, thank you for the comment. Thoughts on the LBJ Bridge being torn down? Now, for those that don't know what's going on here, this was a surprise to me too. So I thought this is something that's going to impact game days quite a bit now in regards to football. So for those that don't know, if you're in the Austin area, that whole I-35 corridor that passes by the University of Texas is going to be undergoing massive transformation here very soon. TxDOT has a huge plan coming on. This is what surprised me. We're talking within 3 weeks. So this was CDC mentioned this at the town hall. Within the next 2 or 3 weeks, construction is starting. What that means in the future is that the LBJ, or excuse me, the MLK bridge, and I think Sam, I think that's what you're referring to. You mentioned LBJ. It's LBJ parking garage, but it's the MLK bridge. So the bridge that is MLK Junior Boulevard that goes across 35, that is going to be torn down. That is going away. What that also means is that the access roads that are right next to the Moody Center and right next to baseball are going to be inaccessible. So, guys, pay attention, be aware. Let's start talking about this now. Just set the expectation. It is going to be a headache, certainly on football game days. That MLK bridge will be gone. It will be under construction. Now, it will come back at a certain point. But basically, what's happening is that upper level, the I-35 upper level, the way I understand it, upper level is going away. So they are making for, this whole corridor is going to change. The bridge will come back eventually, but it's the first thing to go and the last thing to go back. What CDC offered is on game day for football, they are going to be encouraging people to take the 12th Street and 15th Street routes or, head north of campus too. But y'all, I mean, Rocky, you're laughing. We all know what a cluster F it is right now, right? It's going to be 1,000 times worse. So everyone just be ready for it. It
That's
is
also
going to be a
going
nightmare.
to be massive events at the Moody Center every night. Crowds of
Correct.
people go
Correct.
across MLK. Yes,
Correct.
the other option would be, a block north, like almost to Manor, like that next little cross under the highway. But so many people park all around, Dishwalk, the cemetery, all that to get to the Moody Center for events. And if you cut off that big bridge, and how many people are on vehicles crossing back and forth.
Right.
Oh my goodness. That's
Yeah,
good that we
so
start planning ahead now, because people can
yeah,
make huge
just
routes around that.
correct. Now, I don't know that he meant to let this slip. I don't know how many people were paying this close of attention, but I have it in my notes here. He did say they're going to be looking for alternatives for surface lots for parking for people to come by. Again, this is football game day, to try to reroute people, try to give some options. What he emphasized was they were looking for alternatives. Surface lots are going to talk to the state garages on the south side of the stadium. What he mentioned almost as an afterthought, so that's why I kind of go, I don't know if he really meant to say this out loud at this point in time, but he did. He also mentioned that they will be looking for parking alternatives near Mopac. So it may be a situation where, the university owns some land over in that area. We can build some parking garages there, and there will be a true shuttle service running. I don't know. Again, this was a split second mention. I don't know that it could very well just be a possibility that they're exploring, because he mentioned it quickly and then moved on. But just be aware, y'all, it is going to be a bit of a nightmare. Again, this will affect baseball as well. I mean, we obviously,
It's
baseball
already
season
affecting baseball.
just
Well,
got kicked up.
there used to be the shuttle at Barton Creek Mall. It's not far from our house, and that's how we used to get to the games. 10,
Right.
15 bucks, whatever it was. And they bring the buses every few minutes, and it's a short drive from Barton Creek over to the stadium. They would drop off kind of by Littlefield Fountain, and you'd walk down it because that's pretty close as you can get. And you would walk down to, the stadium from there, and just at beginning the third quarter, they could start taking people home. So that's maybe they're talking about something like that again, doing those shuttles from the mall or from somewhere in the area, because the mall has tons of parking. People can park there and get to the game easily. That was always great.
Right.
I don't think they've had that for a little bit.
Yeah. So to your point, the precedent has been set, right?
Mm-hmm.
Texas does have the ability. They have run shuttle services to parking areas around the city. A little bit has changed in Austin since then. I feel like Austin is one of those cities that you can, blink your eyes and all of a sudden it's a completely different city. But yeah, I mean, there is precedent there for alternatives to parking, maybe not necessarily right next to campus. What I would offer though is that, man, we're going to have to make this communication is just going to have to be a lot better. Texas athletics, Texas parking, Texas as a university is going to have to communicate much more effectively than they did with the East Garage snafu and changes for baseball. So anyway, y'all mark that down, get it on your list. Parking's going to be just a hot mess for a hot minute.
All right. Before we move on to the next point that you have from today's meeting, let's give a quick shout out to our buddy CB. He has his power back on. A lot of us have been following we know it's the worst when you don't know when it's coming back on, and if it's cold and all the things, and especially people need to take medications, all the reasons, right, that people need their power on. So I'm glad your power is back. Miracle Martinez is also glad you have your power back. Thanks for the shout out. Yes, assisted parking, ADA parking is already really rough. People do take advantage of those spots when they're not to them. CB's mom probably knows that experience. But so hopefully, like you said, they can communicate a lot better. Those of us who are able to walk, we park and we walk, and we need to leave those spots for the people that need them closer to get closer. But yeah, it's going to be no bridge.
Yeah. Listen, Ghost, I'm right there with you, man. I need my MLK bridge. Yeah, I use that bridge quite frequently. I park over by softball for events on campus and walk across. It's an easy walk. Well, no longer, my friend. It is no longer an easy walk. It is no longer easy to get across campus. So just if you're going to an event at Moody, if you are going to swimming or going to check out lacrosse or do anything really on that side, on the west side of I-35, just please be aware MLK Bridge will be no more relatively soon. Yeah. So moving on, I don't want to take too long on that. Go ahead, Rocky. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, for the people that are just joining us, you were telling us about what happened tonight at the athletics department's town hall with AD Chris Del Conte. We are going to cover Texas football, the new calendar dates that are out. Talk women's basketball, #1. We're going to talk about baseball. We were there over the weekend. Got to laugh at the Aggies a little bit. A couple of miscellaneous things. We'll get to all the Texas athletic things, but you were there tonight in the room with CDC, so we want to hear firsthand what happened. All right. What other big news? What other big nuggets did you get?
Yeah. Again, we know football is king here, right? So I will jump into this ahead. We'll talk a little bit about scholarships. He did mention the new structure and the new funding that all schools are having to contend with. Now, the upside is, y'all, that the scholarship limits, the scholarship cap, has greatly increased. And the way that the NCAA structured this is they presented the maximum amount of scholarships for each potential sport and said to the school, look, how many of these do you want? You can have up to X amount for each sport, right? What Texas has done, what CDC has done, is basically maxed out and said, yeah, we want all of the scholarships for all of the sports that we have available. And Texas will, over the next 3 years, be year by year, slowly increasing the number of scholarship athletes in each sport until the coach says, hey, this is good, this is working, or this isn't working, or until they reach that cap for the sport that the NCAA has allotted for. Some other schools may have been presented with this opportunity and said, you know what, we can't afford it, we're not going to do it, we're going to take a lower cap on those scholarships in certain sports, however that may be. As CDC put it, we are the University of Texas. We never want to handcuff ourselves that way. We want to, and we want to make sure that we are providing the most money possible, the most scholarships possible, so that we have the most elite athletes and the best sports. I mean, there was no compromise there. So that was nice to hear across the board. It wasn't just the big three, right? Like this is across the board what Texas is doing. So what that does mean, y'all, and this will lead into this next discussion, what that does mean, there are also some new rules from the NCAA talking about publicity rights. You guys might have heard this. We know in the age of NIL, that's a whole new wild.
You went muted, Megan. Are you there? No, I can't hear you. Maybe something happened. Did your headphones die? That's right. We'll wait for you. You're telling us about the new changes in the NIL time. Uh-oh. That's all right. We'll wait. Oh, wait, you're going to come out and come back in. All right, that's fine. We'll get to that in a second. But just for the people that are just joining us, Megan was at the meeting tonight with CDC. But let's go ahead and show a couple side things that we want to make sure we get to, and then we'll come back to the CDC event. So I wanted to share, we always like to start the show, and we jumped right into the CDC talk, but we always like to start the show with sharing some good work that these student athletes are doing. Anytime we find that, we like to share it. So let's share. Colton Vasic had a really cool message today. He's working with ATX Table and the Texas One Fund, and it looks like they're bringing food to a community here. So we want to give a shout out to Colton Vasic. If you go to his Twitter, you can see, Megan, I still don't hear you if you're joining. If you go to Colton Vasic's Twitter, you can see that he posted a picture of them doing some good work, and he's asking people to consider donating to that charity at ATX Table. So maybe if you can look up his info. Are you there, Megan?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just wanted to share.
Great.
I was saying usually we jump in and share some good work that the student athletes are doing. So I shared
it.
what Colton Bassick is up to. But we can get back
Appreciate it.
into the next point you had you're talking about the NIL and how CDC
Yeah.
Texas is going to use every scholarship they're given.
Right,
right,
right. So some new changes for the NCAA this year. As you guys may or may not know, there with NIL coming into play, there is a settlement that is coming up for student athletes that were active during the 2015 season all the way through the 2021 season. So there's going to be some reparations paid to those student athletes that were at universities at that time but didn't get paid for NIL. That is coming out of the that's coming out of the NCAA fund, kind of a slush fund that NCAA has moving forward. Once that settlement is completed, which should be by this summer, once that settlement is completed, there are new rules in place. As we know, NIL is always a piece of this and always evolving. New for this year is going to be publicity rights, fair market value NIL, and scholarship rights. So all of this is really detailed. Texas will release, and again, we'll share that. But basically, the gist of it, what we need to know as fans, as donors, as season ticket holders, is with the additional scholarships and the additional revenue sharing opportunities for student athletes, that is putting a greater burden on the athletics departments around the country. So Texas is in a unique position compared to other athletics programs. Texas is net positive for athletics, which is pretty dang rare in today's day and age. That being said, factoring in these new pieces, the publicity rights, the fair market value, and the scholarship rights, coupled with other pieces of the puzzle for athletics, CDC was talking about there is an additional, essentially $29 million that is out there for Texas to cover. 9 million of that is scholarship, and then CDC says, from that 29 million, 9 million scholarship, we've got that figured out. There's another 10 million piece that CDC says, okay, yep, we've got this in plans. We've looked at some efficiencies. We figured that out. But there is going to be just a tiny little 10 million hanging out there that the university and athletics does need to make up. So now for the bad news, Texas fans, part of how that's going to be made up, there is going to be an increase in football prices this year.
Should be, yeah.
Now,
I mean, I understand, yeah.
Yeah. To be clear, if you are a donor, if you're part of the Longhorn Foundation, for a lot of tickets, your donation covers, you pay by seat, and then you pay your donation to have the privilege to pay and more money for those season tickets, right? The way this is structured now, if you are grandfathered in and you are already a season ticket holder, your donation amount is not going to change. So whatever you're paying, whatever level you're grandfathered in at, that will not change for you. What will change is the cost of the tickets for your season tickets per seat. I believe what he said was this is going to be about a $13 change per seat per game. So that does affect
so an extra $100 or so per about $100 or so per
ticket. Yeah,
per ticket for the year.
It factors out close to that. So just be aware of that, Texas fans. Also, I am a football season ticket holder and a baseball season ticket holder. Up to this point, football donation has covered your donation for baseball so that you don't have to make an additional donation for baseball to be able to buy your season tickets. For the year 2025, for this season, obviously that's staying the same. However, next year they are going to change that, like they did with basketball. Like volleyball is moving forward next year. You will have to make an additional donation for baseball to be able to buy your baseball tickets. So it's going to be considered separate entities. And part of that is baseball's one of the money making, one of the revenue generating sports on campus. So it sucks. It's more money, but in today's day and age of keeping up with the Joneses and paying student athletes, that is just part of it part of the name of the game, right? So
but also
Texas,
too, I appreciate that, because like when they did it for basketball, there would be people, they make their donation for football, they go ahead and buy basketball, season tickets, but they're not necessarily that invested in basketball.
right.
So the seats are empty, right? And you have people who hold season tickets, but they're not there at those games because they're not as invested, or or they're just spend the whole season, reselling them, right? But if you have people who are invested in baseball, it's always stinks to have to pay more money to get back into the pool to buy tickets. Right, you're paying twice, like you said, it's for the privilege of spending money again. But I see when they do need to raise the funds to fund all these scholarships. Actually, we can all say, oh, I want all the scholarships, and I want all the NIL, and I want all the best players to choose Texas, and I want them all to get everything. Well, who's going to pay for that, right? If we're the ones being entertained, and we're the ones that you get the fan base excited and proud to be there and buying the gear and doing all the things, it costs money, right? It costs money to be great. So I can see that giving people like maybe next year, baseball is you have to pay separate, just like you do for basketball, to buy those tickets, which shows you're invested in that sport too. Yeah.
Right. So those are some of the big changes coming up here. There were a few. Look, it was quite a long time. I think it was about a 2-hour town hall. So people were asking their questions. CDC did, to his credit, like I said, address a lot of questions. I'm just going to touch base on a couple of the questions that were asked while that were there and were also submitted online that I thought were relevant. There was a question about will the SEC add a 9th football game? As you know, right now, season ticket holders, there are only 3 home games for the SEC this year. And the reason for that is because Texas plays Oklahoma at a neutral site. So that counts against us, right? Their CDC mentioned, hey, man, that's not up to me. But he did say he is constantly putting pressure on the powers that be for the SEC, because that's what Texas wants. Texas wants a 9th SEC game. That is what we are pushing for. And listen, if the haters are to be believed, if the crybabies from former conferences are to be believed, Texas is almighty and controls the SEC, controls whatever conference, right? We are but the puppet masters here. So, hopefully Texas can apply some pressure and move towards that 9 conference game for the SEC. Now, follow-up question for that with the SEC, if they do go to 9 games, will that affect Texas's out of conference schedule? And I loved this answer. I know some people might not love it. Some people might fuss about it. CDC was very clear. He said, our brand is the best brand, and our brand should play the best brands because we are the best. We're not going to back down from these big rivalries. We're not going to back down from these big name games. So he mentioned, of course, U of M and Ohio State coming to Austin in the next couple of years. Of course, for those who've been paying attention, Notre Dame was announced on the slate moving forward. And he said he wants to continue scheduling like that, because in this playoff era, those kind of games, those kind of wins, those kind of matchups matter later on in the season. Rocky, you and I have talked about this. Texas going into Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
Right. Texas going into Tuscaloosa paid dividends at the end of the year. It's what kept Texas ahead of Alabama. It's what put Texas in above Alabama in a 4-game, 14 playoff. So it was nice to hear that confidence in, listen, we are Texas, and kind of going along with that party line. The standard is the standard. We want more conference games because we're in the best conference, but we also are confident that we are the best. And to be the best, you got to play the best. So I thought that was there were no uncertain terms about that. CDC was really clear there. I thought that was good.
Yeah. I wonder if that's also kind of a slight on these teams that don't play the best. These SEC teams that say their SEC schedule is more than enough, so they don't go out and schedule these, big name programs.
Let's make it very clear. There was certainly a comment from CDC that said, listen, we don't schedule cupcakes. I won't schedule cupcakes. That was his reaction there, which of course certainly got a response from the crowd. It was nice. So yeah, I don't think you're wrong, Rocky. I think there might have been a little bit of, we are Texas, and we don't do that kind of thing. We're above that,
No,
right?
Texas is not FCS, we know that. All right. What did anybody
Absolutely.
have like just a ridiculous question? You mentioned earlier someone asked, can CDC control the weather? And that was silliness. But did anybody ask just like a really just ridiculous question other than that one?
Other than that one, listen, Sam, I gotta shout out here, man. Thoughts on people asking for pickleball to be a sport? There was, in fact, a student that came in. Listen, and I'm gonna give him credit. This took some balls to do. The kid mentioned, "Hey, CDC, I'm a member of the club team here. Did you know that University of Texas club pickleball is national champion?" Whatever. Went through this stuff, and CDC said, "Yeah, that's great, man. It's a fun game." And the kid said, "Look, I've been trying to get a hold of you." And so CDC laughed and said, "Oh, so you're just going to ambush me here at the town hall," which effectively is what happened.
That's the point of the town hall, right?
Yeah,
to
look,
be able to ask
more power to him. More power to him. I respect it. I absolutely do. But effectively, he was asking for pickleball to become an official sport, to which CDC, more kindly probably than I would have, responded, "Pickleball is not an NCAA sanctioned sport. Until such time that it is, we're not going to consider pickleball," obviously. So
I know, but
that one was kind of funny.
Gymnastics, we need wrestling, we need
Right.
rugby. Like there's so many other
Hockey before you get to
NCAA
pickleball.
sanctioned sports that we
Yeah.
could get. Pickleball looks really fun. I mean, it's taken over the world. So
Sure,
all right.
sure.
So what other big key points? What other major things did you learn at the?
Yeah, just a couple more things to
hall?
touch base on for football wise. The question was brought up: will Texas ever play Texas A&M on Thanksgiving again? Short
Ooh,
answer.
good question.
Yeah. Short answer: no. At the time that this happened, that Texas was playing Texas A&M, the only other competition was Cowboys and Lions, right? Now he didn't say this, I am adding this commentary.
Yeah.
When Texas A&M underwent the sanctions, that's what stopped us from playing on Thanksgiving. Was Texas A&M was in trouble with the NCAA and they were blackballed, right? So the game moved. Of course, we know that Texas has since then A&M left the conference and Texas tried to fill it. It's always kind of been on the Friday or the Saturday. Anyway, short answer: no. Texas, since that time, since Texas and Texas A&M vacated that Thanksgiving spot, the NFL swooped right in, right? And now the NFL is presenting 3 or 4 games on Thanksgiving, so that's not really an opportunity for Texas and Texas A&M to go. But he did mention sure would be nice to play on Friday, the Black Friday after Thanksgiving. So Texas fans, don't be surprised if that comes back up. Also,
doesn't want to go up against the NFL?
Yeah, that's essentially what it was. Like
because on any Saturday you're going up against 60 other college games. You know what I mean?
The conversation was just that the time slots weren't there, the eyeballs wouldn't be there.
Right.
Everybody's off work on Thanksgiving, and the tradition is NFL, and the NFL, like I said, Texas and Texas A&M vacated that slot. The NFL swooped in, and it just doesn't seem like there's an opportunity to go back there. One other question that I thought was prevalent, made sense. Somebody asked, will corporate logos ever be added to the field? Again,
no.
Yeah, and we see that, right? Like there's a lot of universities that are, now that it is allowed by the NCAA, they are allowing, we saw it at Arkansas, Rocky, watching it on TV. I'm sure you guys saw it, but when we were there, I mean, listen, there were Walmart logos all over that stadium, including on the field. Yeah. However, CDC has said that is not something that the University of Texas is going to do as long as he is there. He said, if times get tough, I don't know, maybe things can change, but no, that's not something I ever see.
I mean, there's around the stadium, but having it be just an eyesore down on the field gets very tacky, and it's more, that's more like soccer and even rugby do that. Like, yeah.
So I appreciate that he said that. He said, look, I put ad space everywhere. You've seen that. I like throwing stuff on the walls. I like putting stuff. He goes, but the field is sacred. The uniform is sacred. There is no, in his mind, and as long as he's here, he said the only things that should be on our uniforms are the name Texas, the Nike swoop, and the SEC logo. That's it. So
yeah, that's
rest easy.
Against all the alternate uniforms, right? Like,
yeah,
he'll shut that down in a heartbeat too, which I love. Texas Texas's uniforms are iconic. The orange on white and then the icy whites are iconic, legendary uniforms. It's fun for some people to have the flashy mix and match, change it up all the time. But Texas, that they don't need to have all that stuff.
Right. Right. So anyway, that was the gist of it. There were a few things throughout there that we don't need to run through the whole 2-hour meeting, the 2-hour town hall. Again, I will shout out to the fans that did show up. For the most part, they were reasonable questions. They were good questions. They were informed questions. We didn't have many of the just outraged people. There was one or two people that really got their feathers ruffled at the baseball conversation with the baseball parking, which was to be expected. Again, like we mentioned at the top of this program, I have to agree. I mean, the communication was pretty bad. CDC took full responsibility for that and said, we're doing what we're going to do. LBJ Library, deal with it. I mean, that was kind of.
I want to say something about the baseball parking because this happened to me yesterday, yesterday. So we went Sunday to the game. I found a little spot to park. A lot of people were parked there. It was a UT lot, but anyway. So then I went back to the same spot on Tuesday, and there was a gentleman wearing a silly neon vest coming around charging people $20 to park in that lot, and it's not his. He was just finding a way to make some money. So I asked him, I said, it's a UT lot, and he's like, yes, and then he kind of made a face, but he was just collecting money from the car before us. And I'm like, I said, you're not with UT, and he acted like he was on a phone call or whatever, and I just walked away. I'm not going to pay him $20, but so just be aware that there are lots where people are wheeling and dealing, and I mean, yeah. So I didn't get scammed. Other people were getting scammed. So just be aware that happens. People find a way to make quick $20, and there it was. Throw on an orange vest and say you're parking attendants.
Yeah. Look, and to be clear, parking wears yellow vests. And they say UTPPS.
It doesn't say the word agency on the back.
Exactly. Context clues here, people. Context clues.
All right, girl. Thanks for going to the CDC thing tonight. Let's do some key points before we shut it down. We want to talk some football, some baseball, give the Texas women's basketball love. Let's start with the biggest, I think probably the biggest story for Texas women's basketball. Let's start with the women because OMG, number one in the country for the first time in 21 years, Texas women's basketball. We saw them beat South Carolina. They had 3 top 10 wins in a row. They had the LSU win, the Kentucky win. They looked amazing, dominating. They went on the road and had a really ugly first half against South Carolina. It was a Monday night, but bounced back and still won by 30 on the road.
Georgia. Yeah.
Sorry, Georgia. That's right, Georgia. Mm-hmm. Thank you. It was Texas that got embarrassed. The men that got embarrassed by South Carolina. But yeah, Georgia. And it had been years since anyone in the SEC had taken that kind of a beat down. Texas gave them the beat down. I mean, Megan, number one, looks like they'll probably get a number 1 seed. Thoughts?
Look, no, number 1 looks good on Texas, I got to say. And when Texas, to your point, Texas has an incredible resume, right? Beating 3 top 10 teams, absolutely dismantling Kentucky, number 8 Kentucky at Kentucky. Also, South Carolina, we saw that game go really well for Texas. And then following that up with beating LSU, sending Kim Mulkey home with a loss for the first time. It's the first time Kim Mulkey left Austin with a loss since 2010. So this basketball team certainly looks very special for Texas. Now, after all of that, Texas still came in at number 2, but it wasn't until Notre Dame lost a game, surprise game that they lost, that Texas took over that number 1 spot. So yeah, can Texas handle the pressure? I got to say, Rocky, I know looking at that game against Georgia, if you just look at the box score, you go, hell yeah, like Texas dominated, right? But they were to a little bit shaky start. The offense was slow to get going. I mean, we saw that in the South Carolina game, right? Or excuse me, the LSU game. We couldn't buy a bucket to save our lives. It was tough going. What I will shout out, and I think what has really defined this team this season certainly is a marker for Vic Schaefer teams, but especially this season. That Texas defense, man, it is absolutely suffocating. Again, to point this out, Texas only allowed 26 total points. Like, we're not talking in a half. We're not talking partial. This is 26 total points throughout the game. That was the worst beatdown that it tied the worst beatdown, or the least fewest points allowed that Georgia has allowed in school history. So this was a big deal. Again, defense was swarming. They absolutely kept the points down to a minimum for Georgia. Really impressive defensive performance. And that's what kept the team in. Once we saw it, second half started, Texas started kind of coming back on, finally got some buckets to drop. And that's when you saw them pull away for the eventual 31-point win. But yeah, man, just absolutely crazy. Hey, Bobby, I love this. Texas Bayou Hawk 60. Vic is a second half genius. Listen, adjust. We fuss about it all the time at football, don't we? We have these complaints where you get off to a strong start and then the other team adjusts and we don't. That is not a problem for women's basketball. That is for sure. Vic absolutely goes in. He knows what he's doing. He makes those adjustments and the team responds well. Rocky, what are you seeing from this women's basketball team that you like?
Defense and depth, especially with the young players. I know you mentioned, really strong defense, but even on nights where maybe Roy Harmon, like, her defense is fantastic, even if the buckets aren't all, dropping early. Madison Booker hasn't put up a ton of points like she's been doing consistently for so long, but they are finding ways to win with team effort. Love it. Let me share this screen with you. So we know we just mentioned they beat number 2, they beat number 3, they beat number 5, back to back top 10 wins. They went on the road to Georgia and won again. And so this is their last, the last 2 games. They have at Mississippi State tomorrow night, Thursday night, 6:30 on the SEC network. And then we got to if you can get there at 1:00 at the Moody. Is the bridge still going to be open on Sunday to walk across?
Here's to hoping.
The Moody Center, which we've talked, is a fantastic venue. It is going to be senior night, so there will be some seniors that you can send your love to the seniors. And they have Florida on Sunday, and if they can close out these last 2 wins, as long as South Carolina also wins their last 2 games, they will tie for the championship, SEC championship. If Texas wins there too, and South Carolina were to drop one, Texas could be the outright regular season champion. So go support the women. If they can beat Mississippi State and Florida, you're looking at at least at the minimum sharing the championship for the season. And so it is in their own hands. If they can come out with that. So.
And just of note, if you do have the opportunity to go, please do. Vic Schaefer has said, if Texas fills the Moody out and has over 10,000 fans, if it's a sellout again, like the last few home games have been, Schaefer is going to donate $10,000 of his own money to the Neighborhood Longhorn Foundation. So y'all, as if you didn't need a reason to go watch this amazing women's basketball team, it is exciting. The atmosphere is hopping. The team is absolutely killing it. Plus, you can do some good just for showing up. How incredible is that? Is that?
Texas Bayou reminds us that Mississippi State is where Vic Schaefer comes from, right? And they interviewed him, and his daughter even talked about, like, just the vitriol and hate their family got for leaving the university and moving on to Texas, and how, that they're really hoping that, treat the players well. I mean, it's not rivalry, but it's, heated conference games. So, we'll see how hospitable they are, but it was pretty sweet to hear Blair Schaefer talk about how, it hurt her to see them say those things about her dad. And so, the best thing is to leave Mississippi, leave Starkville with a dub, right? A W, and worry about at least sharing a part of that SEC championship, regular season championship. Absolutely. All right. So Megan, I'll let you pick. Do you want to talk football or baseball next?
Look, I feel like we need to talk about the big news that came out. I have so much to talk about with both, but right now, and Sam, thank you for your question. We will get to you in just a second, but listen, we got to talk about Dwayne Aquina, don't we? We have
Yes.
to. For those who have been living under a rock, as you know, it was announced this week that Coach Dwayne Aquina is coming home to Texas. He
Woohoo!
is leaving Arizona. As we know, a few vacancies have been left for Sark to fill, and I would consider this a big get. I know there's been some mixed emotion from fans, perhaps. Rocky, what was your first response when you saw, hey, Aquina's coming home?
I love it because we know there was a possibility they were talking about him coming maybe last year. He stayed on at Arizona. We know he has connections with Nansen, well, connections with Texas, but specifically this staff, right? And so he's coming back to coach the safeties, right? I think he's coming to coach safeties. So I mean, the skins on the wall, there's just no, and I'll share that you made this post, and I know other people have added all the names. He's got over 40 DBs in the NFL between, his various stints. He was at Stanford for a while too. So not only does he have like the academic standards of Texas and Stanford, but you take some of the most athletic, smart players and teach them, we heard Rod Babers talk about it, teach them to be just students of the game and understand the why that things are happening, and to be able to read the game the way he's taught them. And that's what Rod Babers always says about Dwayne Aquina. So I mean, looking at this list alone, and this is just Texas, right? You came up with this list, Megan. Talk about it.
Yeah, I don't know how a student of the game, how up and coming student athletes or fans looks at this list and goes, no big deal, right? You're talking Quentin Jammer, Michael Huff, Aaron Ross, Earl Thomas, Ahmad Brooks, Rod Babers, Nathan Vasher, Cedric Griffin, Michael Griffin, Marcus Griffin, Terrell Brown, Curtis Brown, Aaron Williams, Blake Gideon, Shockey Brown, Carrington Bindum, Quandre Diggs, y'all. He's still there. He's still rocking it out. Kenny Vaccaro. That's just to name a few. I think it is so impactful. For a long time, we talk about Texas being DBU. And yeah, we saw that coming back to Texas, with Jahdae Barron winning the Thorpe Award. That pride is there. That desire, that drive to be DBU again is there. I think that fire is lit. But Rocky, like you said, look at the skins on the wall. When you walk into the beautiful, Hall of Honor for the University of Texas, and you look at these awards and you look at these names and you look at the record book, so many from DBU were coached by Coach Dwayne Aquina. That's just undeniable, right? That to me speaks volumes to these guys coming in, the young bucks coming up. You see these names on the wall, you see what they've accomplished, you see how many players that he has put in the NFL. How do you not get hyped about that? How do you not say, look, the proof's in the pudding. It's there. We're talking about, again, at Texas, we had a little bit of trouble developing players over the last, 10 seasons. Not anymore. The proof is in the pudding. The skins are on the wall. Like you were saying, Texas is developing players, and time again, Coach Aquina has proven he develops talent. He develops players. He develops the person. He develops the man, helps them grow up, helps them become who they are, and talks about, life after football. What are you going to do? How are you going to handle yourself? I don't know, man. I'm hyped about this. I think it is a great hire. Again, time and again, I think Texas fans have been presented with this idea like, oh God, they're gutting us. They're taking everybody. What's going to happen to us now? And time and again, Sark has shown, hey man, don't worry. I got you, fam. I got this. And just consistently comes back with these incredible hires.
Yeah, when Tashard Choice left for the Lions, it took a few days, a week or two, to get that replacement right. But this one, it feels like Terry Joseph was out that morning, moving on to the Saints. Congratulations, that's good, healthy attrition from the coaching staff.
Absolutely.
That they're going on to NFL or higher position. We know Blake Gideon left to go be the DC at Georgia Tech, right? So they're going to bigger, roles, bigger responsibilities, bigger titles, going up to the league. That's huge. So when the last position took a minute to fill, right, several days, and then you have this one that was announced later in the same day. So probably like to think that things were in the works. They knew kind of lining these things up, and it's like, welcome home, Dwayne Aquino. Everyone, like you were saying, everyone praises him as an educator of the game, as a good man, as a really positive person, and just feels like he's always so spirited and has a passion for the game. And like you said, you have to look at the names. You just read all the names, and then you look at the young guys that are on campus now. Derek Williams will be coming back from his injuries. Xavier Philsme back for a year or two. You have, the glue of the back end right now, our boy Mookie, like coming back. So we're going to have just so much talent back there that. And Dwayne Aquino knows the system and can keep connecting it back together. And I think it's exciting to have Dwayne Aquino back.
I agree.
Year when that fell through, that was kind of bummed because he's a legend. He
is a legend.
A legend in college, and all the NFL knows him too because he's produced and developed so many, over 40 NFL DBs.
Yeah. Now, I let me ask you this. Coach Aquino is 70, right? We talk about this a lot. We talk about this close to it. We talk about this a lot in politics. They're getting older. I don't want an old guy running stuff. Do you have any concerns about his age? Do you think that's a problem?
No two 68s are the same. I mean, there's people who are 40 who look 80, and people who are 80 who run around. I mean, he looks active and healthy, and I mean, there's a lot older people doing a lot more important things, making bigger decisions in the world. I think, yeah. if Sark trusts him to go, let's go.
That part, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and you're absolutely right. I love that you said that. Not all 68-year-olds are built the same, right? It's your 68's not my 68. Listen, when I'm 68, I'll probably be dead. I'll be old and decrepit and broken, and my liver will be a pumice stone. It'll be just a mess. But
not me. I'm gonna live forever.
You're gonna live forever. I respect that. You're gonna be pushing me around in my wheelchair. You're gonna be the one pushing me in the marathon as I'm just in my wheelchair. And you're pushing me around.
Your first marathon.
I love it. Look, but I think the important thing here is Coach Aquino is intense, man, and he's kept that intensity. He was intense when he was at Texas. That is one of his markers, right? That is one of the things that he is known for, defined by. The man doesn't let things slip. He doesn't let things slide. He's a hard ass, but he's also running right there with them with the guys. He's right there in their faces. He's right up there. So I agree with you. If Sark's not worried about it, I'm not worried about it. And one last point about this. I think if you are the least bit worried, what I would say is look to all of the former players. Look to the guys who know. Look to the guys who have been through it. I haven't seen any kind of negative comment, any kind of question from any of the guys that he has coached. I have seen nothing but positivity. They're hyped up that he's coming back. Yep. And to those that say, oh, okay, well, maybe they just aren't saying anything. I don't know that I would say that. I think people have been very vocal.
From former players.
Very vocal.
Excited,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, look, run me through a brick wall right now. I'm excited. Let's go. I'm excited. This isn't football season yet.
Yep. All right. Speaking of, is it football season yet? Perfect lead in. We'll do the calendar that's kind of been announced a little bit. March 25th, spring ball will start with Texas football. They've been on campus. They've been doing winter conditioning already. So spring ball will start March 25th. And also a side note, Alea Chavez, the top high school basketball player ever, is going to announce that day. We kind of talked about basketball and we missed to mention that, but the announcement came out that that's also a big day, hopefully for Texas. Again, we'll see how that goes. She's Texas, Oklahoma, Texas Tech. Everybody in the country wants her. March 26th, the very next day, Texas will hold their Pro Day. And we'll have I have a quick question for you about Pro Day. And then April 26th will be a fan day for Texas football fans. Is it an open practice? We'll see what it's going to be, but it'll be some kind of football fan day the same day that Texas plays the Aggies here in Austin in baseball. And if that bridge is closed on MLK, you better start walking now to the stadium because you might make it by April 26th. Quick question for you about Pro Day. We'll dive more into it later, like when we watch how everything went for all the Longhorns. But
Sure.
the report kind of came out about Quinn Ewers. Of course, people expected him to throw. He said yes, he is going to throw here at the combine this week. Well, combine's happening this weekend, and then Pro Day. Do you think he needed to throw at the combine when other quarterbacks like a Cam Ward might not, or other quarterbacks might not throw?
Yeah, as much as I'd like to say no, he's got this in the bag. We all know that from the Heisman hype at the beginning of the season, that didn't quite pan out. Quinn's battled some injuries, right? It has come out later in the season that throughout the season he was playing through a torn oblique, not a strained oblique like we thought it was. It's an actual torn oblique. For any of you that have had that, you know that's nothing to joke about. That S hurts. It hurts, man. And so impressive that he's played through it. But Rocky, there have been questions about his health, about his ability to stay healthy. So yeah, I think, has he been able to recover? Is he the guy that some of the pro scouts think he is? He's going to have to prove that at the combine. He is going to have to throw. I think it's a good move for him. I certainly think that, given how his injuries have played out, given what he's done, and again, I'm not taking away from what Quinn Ewers has done. He ends up third, the third ranked quarterback at the University of Texas, battling through injury, battling through this day of social media hate, right? To end up playing through what he's been playing through and to end up ranked third quarterback at the University of Texas is really impressive. His numbers are impressive, especially when you consider that. But yes, I do think he has got to answer the questions. Is he going to be able, has he recovered? Is he going to be able to throw? Does he have the arm strength? Does he have, is that arm, is that athletic ability what we think it is? He's going to have to go out there and prove it. So I think, yeah, it was absolutely a smart move for him to say, yeah, I'm going to be out here throwing. And I think you best believe there's going to be quite a few eyeballs on Quinn Ewers to see how he performs at the combine. This is a great opportunity for him to really boost those numbers back up, maybe towards expectation to where they were at the beginning of this season.
Yeah, we know we have Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, or most NFL scout draft projections have those two as 1 and 2 going quarterbacks. So we'll see where Quinn Ewers falls or rises after the combine and then Pro Day. We know last year when he threw at DK here at Texas, he blew everyone away, and that's, like you mentioned, his Heisman stock went right up. Everyone was talking, this is an NFL arm. And like you said, this year the team success was fantastic, but individually he fell below some other quarterbacks. But we'll see if he can use this opportunity to get his stock back up. And the one team that you just got to get one team to really say, you fit us, you fit what we're doing. Some people seem to think because he's training with former fired coach Mike McCarthy in Dallas. Well, I mean, he's a Dallas area kid, so of course he's going to be near home, but he's training with Mike McCarthy near, is he linked to the Cowboys now? Or, all the things. When last week the news was the Cowboys are going to try and tank to get Arch and Saban. So who knows?
I'm telling you, man, it makes your head spin, doesn't it? It is quite the drama. I don't want anybody to ever tell me women are more dramatic or than men are, because listen, you just look at the drama surrounding football alone. It's crazy. It's crazy.
All right. Okay, so lots to look forward to with spring ball, and we'll talk next week after we've seen the combine and all, who ran what, and does Bond really show out with some speed? That would really help him. Golden, there's so much opportunity for him. Like this, it's going to be fascinating to watch the NFL draft projections, go up and down and see, how Texas has, we know, was it 14 at the combine right now. So let's see how it goes. That'll be fun.
Yeah,
all right.
We'll be there to cover it, for sure.
All right. So we got to talk baseball. We just
Yes,
got to
we
move
do.
through it all because we have so much to talk about, but we don't want to be here all night because we started so late.
We
Okay.
did start late. We appreciate y'all being with us too. Thanks for holding on. As you know, we our new home is on, or our new old home is back on Wednesday nights. We have moved it late. We did get started a little bit late today to recap that town hall that CDC held. If you are just joining us, we appreciate you. Don't worry. We recapped everything. It is available on our YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe. We are at Fire the Cannon Podcast on YouTube. If you are looking for us on Twitter or on Instagram, we are at Fire the Cannon and the number 1. Again, we appreciate y'all being here. And now let's jump into baseball, y'all. Look, I'm a football girl. I love my football. I can talk football all day, every day. I go to all the games, home and away. We know that. But man, baseball sure does hold a special place in my heart. It really does. And baseball is back. And there is so much excitement about this team this year. As we know, Texas baseball didn't quite perform to the level, the expectation last year. And as such, we are under new management. Coach Schloss is at the University of Texas. And there's been a lot of question about what will this Texas team look like? Can the pitching improve from last year? Can this team play together cohesively? Because we know we got the talent. We got the guys that can make some plays. We got the guys that can do some incredible things, but it didn't always get strung together in the right way last year. Well, it is early in the season, y'all. I certainly don't want to be that person that has knee-jerk reactions to midweek baseball games, but I'll tell you, I'm feeling pretty good about the direction that the program is headed. I think it's certainly trending in the right way. Texas, as you know, last weekend swept Dartmouth, which, if you might think, oh, it's just Dartmouth, it's not a big deal. Let me just put this out here for you to be happy about or you to be sad about, whichever. I don't know if you're a positive person or a negative person, but last year, Texas only swept 2 series. So, hey, man, look, if you're a glass is half full kind of person, we're already halfway to meeting that number of last year by sweeping Dartmouth there. Again, Texas wins 4-3, 3-2, and then 4-1. Now, if you're worried about these numbers, again, let me remind you, this is early season baseball. We're still figuring things out. We did see a lot of pitching changes. We saw some tweaks in the lineup. Who's going to hit? Our bat's going to get hot. And I don't want to be this guy. I don't want to make excuses. This is certainly not an excuse, but it does affect how the ball travels, how well it comes off the bat. It was cold as shit in Austin, Texas for the Friday and the Saturday games. Some of you may know they moved the Friday game up from 6:30 to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which made it difficult for some fans to get there. And it was still cold, y'all. I think the top temperature that it got to that day on Friday was 37 degrees.
So
Saturday wasn't much better, still pretty chilly. I think it got up to 38, 39 maybe, but it was rainy and drizzly too. So Sunday, beautiful day. I mean, it was just exactly like Austin, Texas treats us this time of year. It could be 20 degrees. It could be 80 degrees. You don't know. Or you might get all of it over the weekend. During that Dartmouth series, we certainly did see everything. But again, Texas coming through, working through, figuring out some pitching. It was good for me to see Schlossnagle kind of cycling through his guys, figuring out who's going to pitch what, who's going to pitch where, and who is your starting pitcher going to be. I would be remiss not to mention Luke Harrison having some really great numbers, really great success at Texas early on. Again, I don't want to be the person that is knee-jerk reaction and saying we're winning it all or losing it all after a few games early in a very long baseball season, but Texas is looking really good. Rocky, you joined me yesterday, Tuesday, for Texas taking on UIW, University of Incarnate Word, from down in San Antonio. Texas handed the team the first goose egg of the season. So Texas winning that matchup 6-0 on the first Tuesday game. Again, last week's Tuesday game got canceled. This is pretty incredible from Nash. Love this. So Texas just held the best offense in the nation to just 2 hits. They averaged 13.3 per game. That's UIW averaging 13.3 per game prior to playing Texas. The pitching staff was incredible, and they have a lot to build on as the season progresses. Yeah, wholeheartedly agree with that, Nash, man. Thank you for staying on top of it. If you guys aren't following Nash, it's Nash Talks Texas. He's got some great content. He's amazing for football, amazing for baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to say, Rocky, you perhaps aren't as insane about baseball as I am. What is your overall feel for this Texas team early on? What were you thinking on Tuesday when you were there?
So I feel like the vibe of the team is really connected and happy, having fun together right now. We know, especially when like last year there were the struggles and the questions, and is the coach on the way out the door, and all the things that Pierce was on the way out the door. But when you're losing games you shouldn't lose, like all those Tuesday night games Texas lost last year, not to drag all that, but only to compare it to how much fun it looks like they're having right now with their hand clap, the hand clap thing they're doing when, supporting each other and really cheering each other on. And it just feels like the team looks like they're having a lot of fun right now. And it, like you said, it's early in the season. We got to see the big win on Saturday, 4-1 on Saturday against Dartmouth for the sweep. That was great. And then I was there Tuesday night. It was a beautiful night to be at that game. It was beautiful. And there was some stellar highlights. We got to share them. All right. We got to share the one of Jalen Flores.
Yeah.
You wanted to share that? Do we do it now?
Yeah, let's bring it up. All
right. Yeah, this was amazing.
Unbelievable amount of arm strength and accuracy on the run, underhanded, across the diamond. Just to have that much arm strength and gets him by.
What a play by Tulowitzki with a guy who can run Ozuna.
The backhand and Tulowitzki up the leap throw over to first base and right on the money. That's the amazing.
So for those of y'all listening, this was an absolutely incredible play. Jalen Flores, our shortstop, chased down a short, shallow ball to shortstop. As he's running towards the third base line, I mean, he's just full tilt to get there in time, catches the ball, and then somehow managed to cross-body throw mid-air and make the perfect throw to first to get the batter out. It was absolutely incredible. And what you just saw, again, for those listening, was a comparison to Troy Tulowitzki, who is, again, a coach for Texas, making very similar plays. So immediately you're seeing Tulo's effect on Texas players and how he's coming in. We, very close friends with the Faltinis. We've talked with Trey Faltini. We've talked very close with his mama, and just the effect that Troy Tulowitzki has on this team and the closeness he shares with the players. You're really seeing that come through. Rocky, I love that you brought up the vibe. I think this is a thing we don't talk about enough. I don't think a lot of people talk about. Like, baseball is certainly a sport of numbers. You can talk about, oh, look at your average, look at all this stuff. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. At the end of the day, getting to Omaha is hard. And Texas fans are spoiled by it, right? Texas has been there 38 times. The expectation, the standard at the University of Texas is to make it to Omaha. But I think sometimes we get spoiled as fans and we forget how magical that is, how rare that can be. And it takes chemistry. It takes a team liking each other. It takes a team trusting their coach, trusting their coaching staff to really develop, build, make the right plays, do the things that they know they can do, that they should be doing. And I think we lost that a little bit last year. I think we lost that a little bit, as the team wasn't living up to expectations with the previous coaching staff. I think that wore down. And I agree with you, Rocky. There has been a massive shift between last year and this year to just watching these guys go out and have a good time. It is fun to watch. I think now, look, I'm not sitting here saying, oh, Texas is definitely going to make Omaha. Oh my God, this is a national championship team. I can't say that. I don't know that. I would be surprised if that shift happened that quickly for this team this fast right now. But man, I sure love what I'm seeing. I love the development that we're seeing from the players. One of the biggest issues that we had last year was pitching, right? The pitching was wildly inconsistent. Your starters were strong, but the bullpen, my God, was on any given Sunday, on any given day, it could just be a mess. And I think that's something that we're really seeing come in. Pitching is a lot stronger this year. I don't think there's the concern that you had last year, and defense is playing well. Did you get the sorry for behind the scenes look here, guys that are listening, but did you get the text that I sent you with the interview from
I have it
Coach
ready to play.
Schloss? Yeah, can we throw that up here? I want to talk on this real quick. I think this is
Yep.
important.
Just a lot of fear to make a mistake, and so can't play that way. You got to have some awareness, and you got to have, we call it ATW, awareness to win. What is the game asking me to do, right? If the pitcher's got a quick leg time, you can't steal the base, if he doesn't, we can, and don't be afraid to get thrown out. I mean, the catcher for Dartmouth today, like he doesn't throw great, and that's why I put Max on his own to steal the bag, and the guy had a little bit quicker leg time on that particular one, and that catcher just so happened to make his best throw. I can live with that, and it's okay. The player can't be upset. It's okay if he's running and he gets picked off. It's okay. It's okay. We're playing aggressively, but when there's other opportunities there, just hesitant and forget all the things that we've talked about and worked on and over and over and over again. So again, that's my job. Is if I've told them 1,000 times, then I have to tell them 1,001.
So,
I like when
no, go ahead.
I like when coaches give you the tools to be a decision maker on the field. Like I've always felt like when I coached, rugby or whatever, my job wasn't to say, if you see this, do this. And if you see this, do that, because that's not how athletes function on a field. Right. But my job is to give you all these tools in your tool bag, and all of this knowledge, as much knowledge of your opponent strategically as you can. Now you need to go out and be a decision maker and trust your instincts and your talent. And that sounds like what Coach Schloss is telling them. Like, okay, we know this about this players, and I'm going to go trust you to be a decision maker. And if it doesn't work out, tip your cap to the catcher who made their best throw, right? The way he said it. But I feel like as a good coach, just puts all the helps you collect as many tools in your tool bag as you can. And now it's your job to go decide how you use your tools out on that field.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I love that. And I think, earlier you touched on the vibe of the team, right? It seems like they're out there having fun. If you're paying close attention, I really want to say, I think this clip was interesting, and I think it was telling on the difference in coaching styles and the difference on where these teams are, right? Again, this is me. This is my take. I could be wrong. There was a lot of strain and a lot of stress on the team last year. I think it reflected in Coach Pierce. I think it reflected in and how could it not, right? You got the weight of the world on you. We know that Texas ended up making the change after the season is over, and picking up Schloss. But when he says things like, I want my team, how can I get mad at my team or my guys when they're making decisions? They got to go for it. They can't be scared to do that. They can't be hesitant.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, so he used that example with Max Ballou of sending him. Didn't work out this time, but coach isn't mad. He said, look, you did what I wanted you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Catcher made the throw of his life. 9 times out of 10, you get that run, and you're learning how to identify those things. I'm not going to be mad at you for making that decision. You might have noticed right after that, Schloss said, then sometimes we go back and these guys are hesitant to make those decisions. They're hesitant to do that. What I would offer, again, outside perspective, I'm not in the locker room, but I think that's the difference. It's going to take this team a little bit of time to kind of unlearn the trauma that they've had from previous years.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like overly dramatic. I just don't know another way to characterize it, right? When you've got a team that is under such immense pressure, a coach and a coaching staff that's under such immense pressure, that the game isn't fun anymore, right? Where it becomes every choice you make affects me. Every choice that you are doing affects me. That doesn't allow a team to play loose and free. It doesn't really foster that environment where players have the ability to do the things, right? Take those risks, take those chances that they know they should be taking. So I think that's something, like, as a fan, as I'm watching, that to me was really key, where Schloss is saying, man, look, they're still kind of hesitant. They're still holding back a little bit. I would offer, I feel like that is probably a product of the past couple of years for some of these players, and that's going to take just a little bit. I think it's part of the reason we're seeing players, young players, fresh players like A-Rod coming in here and just having a day, right? Like he doesn't have that learned hesitancy. He doesn't have that taught behavior of, well, if I do something wrong, I'm going to get in trouble for it, right? That's a thing that these guys kind of have to unlearn. So I'm excited to see that. I think we've started to see the beginnings of a very talented team unlearning the trauma from the past. And I'm really excited to see where this baseball team goes moving forward. So again, y'all, I know we say this a lot. I like to think of myself as a little burnt orange ray of sunshine, but I really mean it. Baseball is fun. Baseball is up and coming. We are growing the game. It is a good time. Next move for Texas. Thank you, Rocky, for pulling this up. Next move for Texas, heading to Vegas, baby. Texas is heading to Vegas for the Las Vegas Classic, where they will take on Washington on February 28th on Friday. Texas Tech, old rival Texas Tech, on March 1st. And then Texas Independence Day on March 2nd. Texas will be taking on Illinois. Now, Sam Little, you had a great question earlier. Do we like it when Texas goes and plays in the tournaments in Fort or the DFW area or Las Vegas against 3 different schools, or do you prefer Texas playing a home and away series against one school? Early in the season, I will say the Sam, for me personally, I kind of like tournament play. In theory, I will say this. I still have a little bit of the UTPSD as a fan. What do we call it? UTSD as a fan. Playing in the major league, ballparks in Globe Life to some extent to Minute Maid. Historically, Texas hadn't done super well there. So I'm a little twitchy about it. But yeah, man, it's early in the season. And this is where you have to kind of, if you're a football fan, you got to turn off your football brain and shift into baseball mode. It's not that games don't count, right? I don't ever want to say that or imply that, but it is a long season for baseball. You're talking 60 plus games for a college season. Games aren't as weighted as they were before. And there is a lot of tweaking, a lot of mechanics that change, a lot of things that change in the season. That's part of the game. It's cerebral, right? I think tournaments like this are a really good opportunity for a team to learn who they are, learn what they're made of, learn what they've got, and for coaches to be able to tweak the lineup, tweak the staff, figure out what's going on with their players, try different things without this massive weight of conference play later in the series or later in the season. So yeah, for me, I like these kind of tournaments. I think they are valuable when used right. But again, it certainly is easier for me to say, heck yeah, I like tournaments when Texas is capable of winning tournaments like we saw against Globe Life, right? There is a bit of feelings there. Rocky, what are your thoughts on it?
I think it's fun for the fans, for all the different fan bases to get together. I mean, I don't know who really wants to hang out with the Tech fans, but Washington, Texas Tech, Illinois, to get all the different fans together. We know even the Globe Life one. We talked about it last week. The weekend Texas was there. The very next weekend there was going to be, Ohio State and all these other teams. And the very next weekend there's going to be another, group of 4 fans. So I think it's fun for the fans, and I think it's great for the staffs to get in this mode of preparing, quick turnover to prepare and get, the stats and the numbers in the film on a whole new team and really prep and get that fast preparation in as a team and a staff. I think that's great practice for them when you start getting into, later tournament play or things. You have quick turnaround before you have to play a team again. So I think you have, learning to scout quickly and prepare quickly. I think it's great all around, but it's also, I was talking to Richard about this, we have the series, we just had a series against Dartmouth, and most of those scores were fairly similar, scores, 4-1, 4-3, something like that. But when you play the same team over a 3-game series, you can have, 1-run win, a 4-run loss, and then a 13-run win, all in the same rosters. And, depending on who's pitching or the matchup or the weather or the time, all these things can affect who wins a game, baseball game. And that's the neat thing about baseball is the quote unquote better team doesn't always win. That's why they play over a series, because there's so many factors into each game, right?
Sure,
So I think
sure.
there's advantages to either one. I think when you talk about, the question was, do you like when Texas goes on these tournaments? I think they're fun for the fans. I think they're a great opportunity for the coaching staffs, and it's a great opportunity for the players to go get to travel to Vegas, do Vegas things, because they get them involved in the community stuff too.
But
you know,
maybe not too many Vegas things.
no, you know what I mean. Like they'll get to, go to a show or go have a nice dinner somewhere. Like they get to do something too while they're there. That's always
You're
fun.
so
for them, too.
wholesome.
Yeah,
You're so wholesome. I love it.
you know what
I
I
love
mean.
it. No, I agree. I agree. Yeah,
Mike
I mean,
was sitting with a beer at the casino, right? Just gambling away while the Aggies were supposed to be prepping for a bowl game that they lost.
that is true. Speaking of the Aggies, listen, we wouldn't be Fire the Cannon if we didn't bring this up. I love me some baseball. I love me some baseball even more when Texas has a great weekend. They did. They had a great weekend. They swept Dartmouth. They followed it up with a solid Tuesday, handing, like we mentioned, handing UIW the 6-0 loss to UIW. However, there was some crazy baseball going on in the state of Texas. Not every team was able to capitalize. The number one Texas Aggies, those fighting farmers, lost at home to your Texas State Bobcats, Rocky. We
I
were
know.
following this game pretty closely as we were watching Texas at the dish. So again, Bobcats come into Bluebell Park, what is it, Olson Field, and defeat the number one Texas A&M Aggies 7-3. Again, I don't want to be the person that is overreacting to an early season game, midweek game, but let's overreact a little bit. Rocky, what's your take on this? Is A&M in trouble?
No, it's early. Just like we wouldn't want to drop the ledge. Okay, didn't they lose to Cal Poly also?
They did, in fact, lose to Cal Poly.
So they lost twice this week as the number one team, right? This
is correct.
This is what we need to share, because the Aggies would never ever leave early, right?
Oh no. Whew, that looks like a mass exodus to me.
Yeah, and this was with this. I think he mentions that they're like, this is when they were down 7-2. So the fifth or sixth inning, seventh inning, they were headed to the gates. One person was actually just going to the bathroom, but I think they said that because they had their coat in there.
Right.
Anyway, this video goes on for 40 seconds of him just saying, "Hey, are all y'all leaving? Are y'all leaving?" And they were leaving. They did not believe in the big Aggie comeback. And of course, I love Longhorn Frenzy. Everyone follows Longhorn Frenzy. He is the best at screen capturing the meltdowns on their message board. And every now and then at the end of the evening, when Texas won a Tuesday night game, which we don't take for granted after last year.
And we do not.
Like you mentioned, we were also following the score of, not worried about the Aggies. We were cheering for my Texas State Bobcats. And we were like 7-2, what? 7-3. That was amazing.
Yeah. Look, again, no knee-jerk reactions, but let's have a conversation. Yeah, I think A&M's in trouble. I think
you do already?
I do. As far as the number one ranking, the expectation in College Station, yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it. Yes, Bobby, Texas Bayou Hawk says David Pierce revenge. That is absolutely true. So Texas fans, you still got a little piece of the Aggies losing. Former coach David Pierce is now an assistant coach over at Texas State. He is serving in an assistant capacity. So he got his revenge against Texas A&M for the loss that Texas took last year. I suppose you could look at it that way. I love it. But yeah, as far as A&M, again, I think A&M is once more becoming victims of their own expectations, right? And I understand preseason rankings, they don't mean a whole heck of a lot, but the expectations were high, probably still are high in College Station. That's a difficult thing to maintain, that number one ranking, that number one level of play, when you have a whole new staff, right? As you know, Texas came in, their Schloss is our gain. Texas hired Coach Jim Schlossnagle away, and most of the coaching staff, including Texas A&M's head coach, who was in Burnt Orange for all of 2 days and then got the offer from Texas A&M to go back. So Early is back at A&M. A&M is loaded. They have talent. They have got guys that really get it. The question is, look, is a Tuesday night loss at home against Texas State the end of the world? Is it the end of the A&M season? Absolutely not. No.
Texas State came into Texas last year and handled business.
That's what I will say. Texas
Yep.
State is a sneaky good team. Also, for those of you caught this, right? Texas State mentioned, or it came out this week, that they are going to be members of the Pac-12. So Texas State moving on up in the world, moving from that Sun Belt over to the Pac-12, rebuilding and salvaging the Pac-12, really. But yeah, you're right, Rocky.
That's
Listen,
bring some fun games to San Marcos.
It absolutely will.
That's
it absolutely
gonna be fun. Okay.
So if you're local to Austin, there's definitely going to be some good. There is good baseball going on down in San Marcos. Look, I don't want to knock them. Their fans aren't my favorite. Like I've had run-ins with their fans that aren't great. Had my car keyed by them even. But yeah, Texas State has the ability to be a good baseball team. They are a good baseball team. They have the ability to mess things up. What I will say for the Aggies, of course, the season is not over. Certainly it's not over. But what I would offer is to enjoy the season as an Aggie fan. Perhaps you should shift those expectations a little bit. Again, that's a big burden, putting it on a head coach who had to find a whole new staff, reworking who he's got. He lost some of the recruits that were committed. Still has a ton of talent there. Again, don't want it to be missed that A&M star, I think, third baseman is out for the season now. Did mention he's been fighting a shoulder injury and is out for the season because he's got to have surgery. Yeah, you hate to see it. You absolutely hate to see it. But yeah, I think the number one ranking was a lofty goal, was a lofty expectation. And they do, but again, man, we know it just as well as anybody as Texas fans. When you retool your entire staff, that's a big ask. Taking a team with a completely new coaching staff, maintaining a number one. So look, I think A&M is still a very dangerous baseball team. I think they're still a very good baseball team, but I still think they're just figuring out who the heck they are right now in the post Jim Schlossnagle era. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things pan out. But to that point, there's a lot of really, really good baseball being played in Central Texas right now. So if you're in the area, check it out, man. It's fun time. It's a fun time for baseball.
Yeah. So we saw they're going to be in Vegas over the weekend. And if you're in Vegas or want to do something this weekend, go to Vegas and watch Texas baseball. All right. So let's wrap up. There's a couple of other sports news around Texas athletics that we need to share. I have the Texas beach volleyball schedule, Megan. I know you're waiting for that. There is a Lone Star Invitational this weekend here, and starting Friday, I think is with the 28th. Yeah, starting Friday, you can see the beach volleyball kick off their home schedule here in Austin. So that'll be fun. So you can go to the beach volleyball or Texas Sports and see their schedule. That's exciting. We have to give a huge congratulations to SEC champions. Men's and women's swimming and diving have won their SEC championships. Congratulations to them. They dominated this year. Congratulations. And a special, this is pretty big news, Megan. I know you're a big hockey fan. We had a blast last year at the Texas hockey game. The Texas hockey team for the first time is going to the D2 national championships. They beat Colorado last weekend and they have advanced. They punched their ticket to the national championships. That's pretty cool.
Heck yeah, club sports. I'm here for it. It's awesome to watch Texas. You're right, Rocky. We had an absolute blast. Texas ice hockey is a ton of fun. If you have an opportunity to check them out at Chaparral Ice, it is a lot of fun to watch them. So, good news. Again, we love saying it. Man, it's a good time to be a Longhorn. It's always a good time to be a Longhorn, but whew, it's especially a good time to be a Longhorn right now.
Yep.
So
Women's softball still number one in most of the brackets. Well, I was telling you, I saw one of the brackets put Oklahoma back at number one. So we'll see. There's several polls or rankings, right? But women's basketball number one, women's softball. I mean, lots of winning right now. Tennis is still on fire. There's so much to support and cheer for. So it should be fun.
well, and I do want to give a final report before we sign off. I wish it could be a little bit happier news, but I do want to say Texas did end up falling to Arkansas at Arkansas. The final score was 81-86. Now, this was in overtime. Texas did make a fight of it.
Men's basketball?
Men's basketball, that is
What?
right. As we know, Texas men's basketball, when Arkansas came to Austin, wasn't such a close contest.
Oh, they got run out their own court.
So it does seem like Texas was given some fight tonight, but unfortunately they ended up falling 81-86 in Fayetteville.
Oh, man.
What this means now, Texas fans, is there are only 3 games left for men's basketball, and at this point, it is do or die. Tonight's game was the 4th game of the remaining 4 games. So Texas needed to win 3. So with tonight's loss, that means that every game coming up is a must win for Texas to be considered for the tournament. So Rod and Terry's seat get a little hot, perhaps.
Yes, very hot.
Toasting up.
Very hot.
That is one thing from, again, we recapped the town hall meeting with Conte, athletic director for Texas, earlier in our show today. It is one thing I didn't mention. That question was brought up about men's basketball, about the standard is the standard. The question was relating, of course, to Rodney Terry. The expectation is to win. CDC had a very tactful response. Rodney Terry has done a lot of great things for Texas. Basketball is a very up and down game. It changes yearly, which is true. But at the end of the day, what CDC said is just a few years ago, Texas was in the Elite 8. We didn't perform to expectation, perhaps this year. And what CDC said was that he evaluates these things at the end of the year. And that was as far as he would go with that conversation. So fans read into that whatever you may, but I think it is fair to say that Rodney Terry's seat is quite warm. And it would take a Herculean effort from this basketball team showing out to try to save their head coach's job, in my humble opinion.
Going on the road, especially after they got run down by Arkansas here, to go on the road and take it to overtime. That's
great effort for sure. Great effort for sure.
But there's you don't get into the March Madness tournament because you had great effort and you really like your coach. You get in because you won games, and
exactly.
Yeah, they're going to have to. Well, we keep saying they got to win so many. They got to win the last 3 for sure, and that's just to maybe be on the bubble. And then they have to do some damage in the SEC tournament. This is a really tough basketball league, and they had back-to-back ranked teams to play, and they pulled a couple off, the one against A&M, the one against, was it Kentucky, who did they beat? But at the end of the day, you can't lose. You can't go to South Carolina, who had 0 conference wins, and get beat down.
That part. You can't go to what at that point was the worst team in the season and lay an egg. You just can't. So, again, we'll keep watching. We'll keep rooting. We'll keep our horns up as always. We hope that Texas men's basketball has a turnaround. Until that time, we will certainly perhaps be putting our eggs in the women's basketball basket, as it may be. They take on their remaining games of the season, hopefully going for that number 1 seed. Gosh, what a night and day difference, right? What a juxtaposition it is to be in the basketball arena at the University of Texas right now. But a lot of games left to play for other sports, a lot going on. As always, we will have our horns up. Rocky, you have anything else you want to throw in before we sign off tonight?
Nope. Nope. Just watch baseball this weekend. Cheer for the Texas Beach volleyball, women's basketball. If you can get their senior day Sunday afternoon, 1:00 against Florida. Celebrate the seniors, like you mentioned. If Vic Schaefer says if he gets 10,000 people in the seats, they will donate $10,000 to one of the Texas funds. So be there. Be there.
Yes, absolutely. Again, we appreciate y'all being here. As always, we are Fire the Cannon. Follow us, please. Like and subscribe on YouTube. That helps us keep this thing going. We are Fire the Cannon Podcast on YouTube, on Twitter, and on Instagram. We are at Fire the Cannon and the #1. As always, y'all, I'm Megan.
I'm Rocky.
And we are Fire the Cannon. Hook 'em.